Okay, hey guys. Here coming to you from Kingston, Jamaica, well, St. Andrew to be exact. To basically give you the scoop on this type of fern, right? I'm still not sure of the name, the collective name of this type of fern. There's so many fern types, over 22 at least, and yet this one is still a rarity, right? It is June 2020. The temperature is roughly 32 to 33 degrees Celsius, just to give you an idea as to the general conditions on which this fern has been thriving. This fern, I must say though, just looking at it, trying to give you as much of a close up as possible, it's not in the most optimal health, right? Um, you'll notice, for example, that there is a lot of dried parts on it, a lot of yellowing on it. You'll notice that the fronds, the leaves tend to shed very easily. Um, this is really because initially the location in which it had been was much darker, wasn't getting as much water as it should be, because ideally it should be getting water daily, at least in the evening or early morning, so that when the heat and the light rays do hit it throughout the day, it can be energized and fortified enough to withstand all of that. Nevertheless, this is the condition on which it's growing. It is. It was in a dark area, just to give you an idea as to where it was before, why it looks like this. It was in a dark area, very dry air, crisp air. Uh, as I said, not much watering, maybe watering every other day. Um, and in terms of the general conditions of the fern, typically they like a lot of water, at least every other day. Um, Actually, if the ferns are showing to be as brittle as this over time, then it means that you will have to increase the water intake of this plant. So perhaps even suggestively, every day, right? In addition to that, if it is that you cannot avoid placing the fern in a dry-aired spot, then at least mist it daily, right? So heavy, gentle, but abundant watering of the leaves. In addition to the pot, definitely want to um, saturate leaves as much as possible, soak the leaves, mist them as much as possible so that they can withstand all of that dry air and to prevent all of this. So I'm going to show you another pot of ferns by contrast, definitely, which is looking much more healthy. This one, I'm expecting that in the next 2 weeks, with proper care and treatment, it definitely should be restored, right? You can see that the ratio of the fronds there are a lot of dried ones in comparison to the green types of fronds. So that's an indicator that the plant really was not doing so well at all. This one as well, you can see, really needs to be repaired, really bedraggled. Okay, so this is another pot of ferns we have by contrast. This mysterious fern that is much greener, much fuller foliage, much longer fronds. Definitely there's no comparison. Much more healthy. If you look all around the concentric focus of this spot, you can see that all around the fronds are not lopsided at all. I mean, quite a beauty. And you can notice as well the fullness of this type of fern is enhanced by the multi-heads of the ends of each. So typically you may have Boston ferns, for example, they just grow one head. However, you can see with this type of fern, it has more than one head. At least one. You can see one here, You can see a second one here, and if you can look very closely, you see a third one dividing and protruding right here. Good. I mean, really is interesting. So just let's try that. So feast your eyes. In terms of care, right? Definitely, as I had discussed earlier, um, definitely would need moist, humid air. Not too dark, but definitely in a spot that is relatively lighter, more illuminated and dark, right? In terms of the foliage, one indicator is going to be the ratio of yellowness to greenness of the leaves, right? If you notice, for example, let me see if I can get a closer capture of the foliage. The fronds of the fern are highly elongated. You will also see as well that they extend not only to the side, but you notice that it extends all over to the front as well. I'll go back to the other one and show you very briefly that one indicator that it wasn't doing so well is that there were more burnt fronds than there were green. So as a result, some shedding had to be done to make the plant look more kempt while it's in the healing stage, right? But this one now, you can see that with the consistent watering, basically daily, worst case scenario every other day, but more so daily, definitely that would attribute to the better health enjoyed by this plant, right? In terms of the soil, just looking at that right there, you can see that it's very dark. Normally it's not, the roots ideally would be down in the soil, but I guess because the plant has grown, this has been in the pot for since last August, so that would be roughly 11 months to a year, right? And over that time the plant has grown. You can see that there's a lot of variation in the colors of the fern fronds to suggest the age of each frond. The greens are younger ones. The more mature fronds would be of this color, right? The roots over time will elongate, right? And usually if it is that you would take up the fern pot and you notice that there are roots extending from the base of the pot, depending on the degree to which you're seeing that the roots are extending from the pot, that it would mean that you may have to change the pot, either increase, put it in a bigger pot, or you can increase it by repotting. It means that you may have to take out this set of ferns, divide it, and you can get two from this one pot of ferns, right? Soil composition, very light soil. I usually do it as a 50-50 percentage, 50% compost, 50% regular dirt, whether or not it's clay or just regular soil. Ferns typically like a lot of wet, damp, moist soil, not heavily drained, but definitely something that drains very well, not too heavy. In soil composition, relatively light, and one that keeps moisture very easily over time. Alright, so it's officially 1 week since we gave this plant some time to recover. Just basically looking at it, giving it the strict care regimen that we committed to giving it for the week. That was watering at least once per day, and misting leaves at least once per day. Notice I had pointed out in this case that with these ferns, it's okay to water them uh, once daily, which I normally do usually in the evening time or in the early morning time, because in this case, since it's that they do not have, they're actually in the hanging mode, and they're not sitting in a saucer, then they can actually accept that kind of watering, since they will not be sitting, the roots will not be sitting in water, and as a result, inducing any chance of root rot. So because the water will actually be running out without sitting, without the base sitting in water, then in a case like this, you can water once daily rather than the 2 to 3 times per week, which is the typical regimen of watering ferns. As well, because the plant was actually in recovering mode, and also because it's highly warm here. It's at least 33 degrees Celsius here, June 2020. Under those conditions as well, definitely watering it once daily will definitely not be of any harm to your ferns, right? So this is the condition of the ferns after the water week. Looking at it, it's definitely greener. I can see it's actually more fuller. You can see it's not as before. Gradually the dried parts are shedding gradually. I could choose to cut them off, but because it's not being showcased at this point, it's really in the healing mode, and it's really for my eyes only. Well, I know yours. I'm just going to leave it there, and also I want to evaluate the extent to which it sheds on its own and recovers on a daily basis. So I'm using it to really track the recovery mode of the plant on a daily basis, right? So for now, I'll just let it stay. Gradually, as it starts to heal, I will keep trimming it gradually, just cutting off the yellow parts, the brown parts, cutting off the dried up fronds all throughout the plant, and having it revive. Notice as well that in terms of the fronds, it has the propensity to grow in all directions, right? The main concept to bear in mind is that plants, ferns in particular, they tend to grow towards the light. If you look at the area in which it is placed, the sun is more on the rightmost part. The fronds to the right, facing towards the sunlight area, will gravitate toward the sunlight. So what I do to ensure that there's even growth and light exposure around the ferns, to ensure that they grow symmetrically, I turn them every 2 weeks, right? So I'll simply just take it down, just put this part toward the sun. I'll put it over in the shaded area while the shaded area comes over into the sunny area. I do that every 2 weeks to get it acclimatized, to ensure that there's an even distribution, and to ensure that there's no overlap of the ferns per se, and to ensure that it grows as symmetrically as possible. So those are some things to consider as you are growing your plants, to ensure that they look as eye-catching and as attractive as possible, right? Okay, great guys, so this is the second week with the recommended care and direction that we gave in terms of the frequent watering. This is the appearance of them now. You definitely see a significant difference. You can see how much greener they are. You can definitely see how much fuller they are in terms of foliage, much more defined, much stronger. I don't want to point out something very distinctive, right? The fact is, at the base of each of these fronds, you notice that they have multiple heads, right? So as it descends, as each frond descends, it's much more fluffy than it was over the past few weeks when it was here for treatment, right? So definitely the regimen has worked consistently, and notice, right, that even when you look into the center of the pot, that you can see a lot of new growth, right? See new growth here, new growth there, a lot of new growth. So what's going to happen is that it's going to start to spring just like this. So you're definitely going to see it springing in all directions, and definitely going to give a good uplifting look, right? So now it's time to really just trim off the dried up fronds, right? To freshen up and revive the look of this pot of ferns. I mean, absolutely lovely, right? So definitely we can be assured that this care regimen that we gave it worked. Complete misting every other day at least, and watering every evening or early morning, just at least once daily, definitely, to revive the pot of this pot of ferns, right? Simply lovely. Have never seen a pot, this type of fern anywhere else outside of Jamaica. So trust me, it is the real McCoy. So please give us your thoughts, like and subscribe, and definitely give any feedback, any clarity, anything on which you think needs to be stressed out, anything that you think needs to be made clear. You can definitely make it known in the comment section. Alright, thanks for watching. Again, like and subscribe.